Good evening. Thank you for joining us here at the Monday, April 22nd edition of the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, and Cemetery Commissioners meeting. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda, we have approval of minutes 4/1/2024, 4/8/2024, and 4/11/2024, joint with FAA. Mr. Marcy?
Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of April 1st, April 8th, and April 11th meeting, the FAA is written.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Next on the agenda, citizen comments. Does any citizen in the audience have something not on the agenda this evening that they'd wish to discuss? Mr. Breyer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Breyer, Flaxfield Road. I'm just curious, are you going to be holding a public hearing on the warrant? Or, because there's a number of citizen petitions, and in particular, I'm sponsoring the audit committee, and I'd really like to have a serious discussion with the board prior to town meeting, so that if there's any problems or issues, we can hash it out instead of on the floor.
Okay. I think we had a discussion on the warrant. Are we having any more, Mr. Ruda?
Our final one will be on May 6th, open to the public.
May 6th?
May 6th.
May 6th.
All right,
That'll be the
wonderful.
final vote before it goes.
All right. Then I'll see you there to discuss the audit committee. I know you have a lot on your table tonight, so I'll see you May 6th.
Not at all. Not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Breyer. Next on the agenda, we have appointments. Recreation Commission, Chris Lewis, term to expire June 30th, 2027. Is Chris Lewis here this evening? Could you come up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, why you...
Sure. My name's Chris Lewis. I live on D'Alessandro Avenue, and I have twins. They're 7 years old. Go to school at Dudley Elementary, and I was looking to see if I could volunteer on the Recreation Commission to see if I could make it better for kids and adults to recreate in this town.
Nice. Excellent. Any questions from the board? Mr. Sullivan?
I want to thank Mr. Lewis for coming forward, but my question would be to the Assistant Town Administrator. How many positions we have in that open right now?
2, 3. I think we have 5 now, 5 on the board, and
What
I'm
was
really
that?
not sure how many we can have. I could check for you.
Okay, no, it's okay. Just because I was going to just make mention, thanking him, and if there was other openings for more people
yeah.
that are interested, come forward. But thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, we haven't
Oh,
voted yet.
we have any other comments? What's the pleasure of the board?
Nope, John.
Mr. Marcy?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, thanks. I move that we appoint Chris Lewis to the Recreation Commission with the term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Great. Thanks for
Thank
stepping
you.
up, Chris.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, reappointment Veterans Agent Stephen Rogerson, term to expire April 30th, 2025. Is Mr. Rogerson with us this evening? Do not see him. Mr. Marcy?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we reappoint our Veterans Agent, Stephen Rogerson, with the term to expire April 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank Mr. Rogerson again.
Yes.
Thanks for all he does.
Next on the agenda, licenses. Common Vic license, SEMA Sub Shop LLC, DBA Subway, located at 157 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass. New owner, Mayank Patel. We're going to table this because we need more information. We're going to take some things out of order this evening. Unanimous consent from the board. We're going to go down to new business, Disabled American Veterans, WF TIF Cisnal, chapter number 53, request for a toll booth on Saturday, May 18th, 2024, from 9 a.m. to noon. Is there anyone here this evening that requests? Yes. You can come up, give us your name, tell us a little bit about.
Good evening. My name is Bill Monaco. I'm treasurer and life member of the Disabled American Veterans of Webster Dudley, Chapter 53. We are requesting a toll booth on May 18th from 9 a.m. to noontime to hand out the annual Blue Dot flowers, and looking for donations. Actually, the flower is free. We hand them out, but any donation would be greatly appreciated as we go forward for those 3 hours.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Sullivan?
First, Mr. Chair, I'd like to welcome Mr. Monaco back. Those that don't know Billy, he served honorably for the town a number of years on the finance board. And we'd welcome you back, Billy, any chance you...
Chairman of the Personnel Board.
Personnel too, yeah.
Chief of the Fire Department.
Yeah, he did a lot.
Keep on going.
So my questions would just be, we always ask, Mr. Chair, have you ran it by public safety? Do they know, we have a way they set up and everything?
No, we have not. I came here, I thought I had to seek permission before I went through the police department.
Then, sorry,
Just for the board, I did speak with the police chief on this matter, and we both approve of this.
Okay. Chief, you all set too?
I can follow up.
And Michelle, there's no before or after? Okay.
All right, Jack.
Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's right there.
I put it in there.
All right, anything else from the board? Any questions, comments? What's the pleasure of the board? Mr. Marcy?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request of the toll booth for the Disabled American Veterans, WF Signal, Chapter 53. The request for a toll booth on Saturday, May 18th, 2024, from 9 a.m. to noon.
Second with another question. You guys want a rain date, Billy, in case it gets rained out, or you just want to run it no matter what?
No, we're marching forward. We'll go to the 18th. Thank you, though, for the offer.
That's my old neighbor right there, in the rain. He's in the rain.
All right, we have a motion and a second, correct?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Monaco.
Thanks
Have
a
a
lot.
good night.
Next on the agenda, we have Black Tavern Historical Society, Saturday, October 5th, 2024. Permission to use the town common and permission for a parking waiver for the annual craft fair on Saturday, October 5th, 2024. Hello.
Hello.
Could you tell everyone your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Linda Bazinet, and I'm from the Black Tavern Historical Society, and this will be our 11th craft fair that we're holding on the Common in Dudley Hill, and it's in conjunction with the Grange Apple Festival. So we always have a good turnout, lots of people look forward to it. We've already got many crafters signed up, more to come, and we'd like permission to use the town common for our overflow of crafters, including the Dudley Agricultural Committee. They usually have booths set up there too. And parking along the street there. And this pertains to the Grange too, because we share everything.
Nice.
So it's the 11th time we're doing it, and we're looking forward to another big crowd, and what can I say?
That's right.
Thank you.
You've all been there, you've all seen it.
Probably all going again. Mr.
So,
Sullivan?
Mr. Chair, just to Linda, is that you looking for parking on both sides of the road? Because sometimes it's one side only. Like
I
both-
don't know.
Oh, all right.
Whatever they usually do. I think it's one side.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. It's usually the side of the Grange is on.
Right.
Because I've already gotten permission to use the Nichols 1805 lot. Well, like our crafters and anybody else. So it's just to give extra parking, and people know to park behind the church and along there wherever we can.
So, Mr. Chair, just, if we can just add that language, parking on one side. And I don't know if that's southerly, southwesterly, but,
You can make that as part of your motion.
yeah. I'm just, it's not part of the agenda. I mean, I don't think that's a major change from what they're asking. I'm not gonna make her come back.
No.
So, Linda, if you're okay with that, I was gonna change, just say parking on that one side.
That's fine.
Okay.
As long as we can use the common for our overflow, crafters and
Yep.
agricultural committee and that.
Okay.
No other questions?
No.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we grant the Black Tavern Historical Society's request for Saturday, October 5th from,
The thing runs 10 to 3, so I'd say like 9 to
or
4.
from approximately 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Permission for parking waiver for the annual craft fair and use of town common, excuse me, common with the understanding the parking is on that right side, same side as the Grange.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you, and thank you for taking it out of order.
Thanks, Linda. Good to see you.
One more thing before we get to the public hearing. We have tentative selectmen meeting dates, July through December 2024. Meetings on Monday evenings at 6:30 p.m. unless otherwise noted. June 24th, July 8th, July 22nd, August 5th, August 19th, September 9th, September 23rd, October 7th, October 21st, October 28th, November 18th, December 2nd, December 16th, and finally, December 30th of 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Next on the agenda, we have a public hearing for Rocky Hill Estate subdivision. Discussion open to residents with town council and LSP from Weston Sampson relative to proposed town meeting article. Waterline easement to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, or eminent domain a permanent utility waterline easement in, on, under, along, and across Eagle Drive as shown on a plan entitled Rocky Hill Estates dated August 1st, 1989, prepared by Para Land Surveying, Southbridge, Mass., Plan Book 623, Plan 67, a copy of which is on file with the Assessor's Office, or take any other action relative thereto. We're going to open the public hearing at 7:50.
6:52.
I'm sorry, 6:52 p.m. I don't know why I went to 7 for. Before we begin this, though, I just want to give everyone kind of a brief overview of how we got here. So, our capped landfill, PFAS, was discovered in the groundwater monitoring wells. This triggered the Department of Environmental Protection to require testing within a 500-foot bubble. The nearest residence was 600 feet from the landfill, so DEP suggested testing of private wells at 600 feet. PFAS was found in the water, and this triggered an immediate response action order, IRA, from the DEP that required that the town provide water to that residence. During this testing period, Gentex, which is located between the capped landfill, which was also placed under an IRA by the DEP as a possible source of PFAS contamination. Every time PFAS is discovered in a water supply, the 500-foot bubble is required, and to date, the entire neighborhood is being tested and supplied with water or a point-of-entry filtration system, a POET system, has been installed, is tested, and is maintained. To date, both the town and Gentex are splitting the costs of mitigation. This has been costly. A rough estimate of the cost to the town alone is over $500,000 to date to install, maintain, and test. The permanent solution to the PFAS issue is to provide the impacted residents with a public water line so that treated water can be delivered to the resident's home. It is the solution that the DEP is recommending and ultimately going to require to resolve the PFAS issue. Because the homes that are impacted are located on a private road, and all but one home on that road has private wells, it will be necessary for the town to obtain an easement to install the water line and bring it to each private home. Of note, the town will likely bear the entire cost of the water line installation and tie-in. The town will not be in the business of forcing any resident to tie in that doesn't want to do so. It will be recommended but never forced. The easement will provide the town with the ability to install and maintain the water line. It will not change the private ownership of the road to public. Tonight, we have LSP licensed site professional from the engineering firm of Weston and Sampson, Sean Healy, here to discuss any questions that the residents have relative to the technical status of the project and mitigation efforts to date, and our town council, Jeff Blake, here to answer any legal questions that the public may have relative to the legal obligations, the town meeting article of the mitigation plan to date. Tonight's agenda has the text of the proposed article for the Maytown meeting printed right on the agenda, which I read out loud at the beginning. Where would we like to start? Mr. Healy?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was a great summary, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Did I get it all?
Yeah, I think you got it all, and I had so much in the presentation here, or in the slides that you covered, so I could quickly go through the slides. A lot of my slides introduced the project and how we got here. Give you a little update on the sampling to date. The last update I gave was in September of 2023, so I can give you an update as to where we are now. How many POET systems we have operating, and how many POET systems we think are going to be needed in the future. Because EPA has now promulgated new drinking water MCLs, which is going to affect the number of POET systems that we will need as part of this project, which is going to increase costs significantly. And then I just have a little summary of what I did a rough calculation as to potential costs going forward to the town, because I thought that might be useful in coming to a decision on this warrant. So I can go through. Unfortunately, I don't have control of the slides, but
Well, why don't you just turn this over to...
yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
Just do that one.
Okay, so my name's Sean Healy. I'm an LSP with Weston and Sampson. I'm just going to go over a quick regulatory status, review of sampling performed so far, and our next steps. This is an update from September. And so I know a lot of people in the room and maybe online were not at the meeting in September, so I'll just quickly go through regulatory status. 2021, we had detections of PFAS and 1,4-dioxane in groundwater and surface water samples at the perimeter of the landfill. October 21, we reported these to the Mass DEP, and we got an RTN for an IRA, immediate response action, which was implemented. And we had to sample the residential homes, as was indicated in the summary, provide bottled water, install POET systems as needed. Since 2021, we have been sampling homes seasonally. We've expanded sampling each seasonal event in a 500-foot radius from any detection of PFAS or 1,4-dioxane. We've submitted IRA plans, status reports to the DEP on a regular basis to maintain compliance. Remedial monitoring reports have also been submitted for the POET systems. And our next step in the overall MCP process is to complete a Phase 2 comprehensive site assessment by the fall of 2025. Not advancing. Let's see. Might need your help. Let me try this one. No? Might need your help, John. Oh, that one. Oh.
Looks like we should disconnect it.
Okay, so November 21, that's when we initiated sampling. It's been going on all the way up to into 2024. We just are completing our first round of sampling in 2024. Up to date, there's been 59 homes that have been sampled. We have 15 poets installed. And like I said, we're just finishing up the spring March sampling event. This is a figure that shows up to the December 2023 sampling event, the highest PFAS detections in our sampling event, sampling events to date. And you can see the red houses are the ones where we have concentrations above the current regulatory standard, where we've had to install POET systems. Green is non-detect, and blue is either undeveloped or not sampled, and yellow is detections but below standards. This is a map that shows the 1,4-dioxane detections maximum to date. Again, red is above standards, which required a POET system. And those POET systems are dual POET system, because each of those 4 houses also have PFAS detections above standards. So we're treating both PFAS and 1,4-dioxane at those houses. You can see on this map we have a lot of green for 1,4-dioxane, so we will be, as we go forward, we will be reducing the amount of 1,4-dioxane sampling in the seasonal events considerably, because we have so much green on the right side of this map. Going back to the PFAS map, you can also see that we have green in all directions, including in the northeast direction. So based on the sampling to date, we feel we've come to the limit of our bubble map, or extending of the PFAS of the sampling radius. So we feel like we've come to an end of extending that radius. And this is being confirmed again in our March sampling event. So our next steps are to continue with seasonal sampling. Our bubble, as I said, our bubble radius map is now set. We have no additional homes to sample. Some sampling reduction will occur, as I just indicated. We're also reducing some, because we have so much sample data now, so many seasonal samples. For most of the house, we have multiple rounds of sampling. We can now reduce the sampling at a lot of the homes from quarterly sampling to annual or semi-annual sampling. Then again, we've got to do our phase 2 assessment in the area and downgrading of the landfill to further establish the nature and extent of the impacts in the source area. We're going to do that phase 2 assessment in 2024 and extending into 2025. And ultimately, the next step and the final goal is to get connection of the residents to the public water supply system, which will really put an end to this process and all the sampling that's required. New information: the EPA has promulgated new drinking water standards. 2 in particular that are of concern to us are PFOA and PFOS. These are 2 PFAS compounds where they're setting the limit down to 4 parts per trillion, and there's others where they're changing the limits. Mass DEP drinking water has time to adopt these standards. The time frame is estimated between 2 or 3 years right now before they will have to actually adopt those standards. However, the Mass DEP site cleanup, which is applicable to this RTN and this release, they're going to be changing their standards sooner. And they haven't indicated exactly when, but potentially by the end of this year. So as a result of that, we have another 25 additional homes. We are going to have exceedances of the new drinking water standard. And this is as of 10 to 8 days ago or so that the EPA promulgated these new standards.
So that's significant because it's a significant amount of additional costs that are going to be coming up on this project and that are going to be incurred by the town if we don't move forward with the water line. This is just a couple of slides here that shows the new EPA drinking water standards that are published on DEP as published. As you can see, for PFOA and PFOS, they've reduced the standard down to 4 parts per trillion. So rough costs, I put some effort into in talking to the contractors who are doing a lot of the actual legwork for the town and for Gentex. They're splitting costs, and the contractors that are installing the POETs and maintaining and monitoring the POETs for these 25 additional POETs, we're estimating an installation cost of $130,000 and a yearly monitoring and maintenance cost of $110,000. And this is for town cost, assuming the cost sharing agreement with Gentex continues at 50%. So again, rough estimates, because I am not involved in the actual invoicing and contracting with the POET system maintenance and monitoring and sampling contractor, but based on my discussions with them, I think a rough estimate of ongoing town yearly cost, it could be approximately $425,000 a year. That includes existing 15 POETs, the 25 new POETs, monitoring and maintenance, which is Safewell as the contractor, seasonal sampling with Safewell, and also LSP services that are provided for the town. And again, there's additional costs for the Phase 2 CSA. So I just wanted to, that's all new information, and I think it really helps in the decision making as to, you know, how important it is to get the water line in. And that's all I have.
Gary, Mr. Chairman,
Open to questions.
questions and answers, can you come up to Mr. Johnson?
Okay. Yeah, any questions from out in any residents?
We'll have Sean come up.
This one?
Yeah.
So-
Maybe Sean, you could just relocate so you can see the.
Sure.
And that way they can come to there. Mr. Blake, did you have anything to add before I open it up?
Just briefly, as you know, my name is Jeff Blake. I'm here from KP Law, your town council. I did want to say that we have been working on this now for well over a year, and we've been back and forth with DEP. We've looked at all the various scenarios, and it does appear like the best case scenario here is to provide a public drinking water supply to those folks that are currently contaminated. As you can see from the numbers that your LSP just provided, it's about $425,000 a year, and there's not necessarily an end in sight. It's not you do it for 2 years and you're all done. This is, you're going to own it, and who knows if EPA and DEP will go lower, or who knows if there'll be additional houses that start to turn red from green or yellow.
Thank you. Anyone here today have any questions? Oh, no, that gentleman had his hand up. I'm sorry, I was short. You can come up next. Just your name, address.
Thomas Chinaki, 70 Eagle Drive. Are you going to provide us with free water, or are you going to send me a bill? Because technically you guys polluted our wells, so we shouldn't actually be paying for water.
I think the way it's typically done is that the town provides the water line and provides the connection, and then ultimately, when you start using water, you will have to pay.
I will have to pay? Why would I have to pay? If my well is going to be cheaper than what your rates are right now in town.
The Department of Environmental Protection is requiring us to bring you water up to your basement.
Yeah,
They're not requiring us to give you free water for the rest of your life. If you, I suppose you have the option, sir, of continuing with your well. We can't force you to connect to the
No, I don't
supply.
want to connect to my well because I don't know what this is doing to my kid's health in the long run.
Understood.
You know, but why am I going to pay because I can't use my well? Do you know what I'm saying? Well, if
I can hear
the
you.
town landfill polluted my well, then why are you guys going to send me a bill?
because you're going to be getting clean water from us, and we're going to be providing you with water. We're taking care of our legal obligation according to the Department of Environmental Protection, and that's their policies, and that's what happens throughout the Commonwealth, probably throughout the country.
All right.
Chairman, before the lady comes up, town council a question.
Yes.
So, Mr. Blake, the gentleman stated that the town polluted as well. Sean clearly stated that it's a dual, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Dual responsibility.
Yeah, but the IRP, whatever, the Gentex
The
is
two
involved too.
RPs, yeah, Gentex, yep.
And I'm sure that the town is not advocating any responsibility from the landfill, but it's been proven that Gentex is also a cause of this.
Well, it's, Sean, you can answer it, or I don't believe anything has been
It's
proven
not
yet.
proven, but I mean, Gentex is currently under this name.
They are, and they're,
splitting costs.
we're investigating sources of this stuff. I don't think anybody has been definitively said it's absolutely yours. I could be wrong, Sean, right?
That is correct.
Dual
That's part of the
responsibility.
Phase 2 assessment. So as of now, as far as the regulatory responsibility goes, there are two responsible parties, and that is Gentex and the town.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You could
Yeah,
just
hi,
tell us your name and address?
Yep, Nancy Bochetti, Eagle Drive. Question, how often is the water in Dudley tested, and where is that tested? Because now that my water is good and everything's been, I have this filtration system and it's been tested, and I have other filters on my fridge and everything else, how often is the water in Dudley tested?
Could someone from the water department answer that?
So is that water going to be safe for me?
Absolutely. Like I said before, you got better drinking water than Poland Spring right now. We test our water monthly for coliform bacterias. We test for PFAS. We have added tests that go along with that, arsenic, secondary contaminants, you name it, we test it. We probably each month do a round of 40 or 50 types of tests. They're very stringent on that right now. Our treatment center can provide all release of contaminants down to even the 4 parts per trillion to the non-detect level. So the treatment center is in operation now. It's tied in all of our pump stations, and everything is also adaptable for any other thing that comes down the line from the DEP.
Question for George?
Question?
George, question before you sit down?
Yep.
At one time, weren't you folks, even before PFAS, I'm going back 10 years probably, randomly testing properties in town too, with the permission of the property owners, right? You draw a sample.
We would assist them to say where we could get it tested, or if we bring in some samples in, we would carry a sample from them and then separate it to their thing. But mostly informational types of things that the customers were asking for. There's other tests there for people with wells and things like that. Our labs are the same basic labs that you guys go where all the testing's done. We have particular ones that we like that serve us very well, and customers can also benefit from that. If they just give us a call, we can guide them in those directions where they can get their water tested.
Right. All right, thank you, George. Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
George. Anyone else? What's your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Megan Darnell, and we live at 53 Fairview Ave. And I apologize if this has been asked before, but we just purchased our house on February 20th, so this is a brand new issue to us. We're working with a different engineering company, Woodard and Curran. Is those same numbers as this, like the slides that you showed? Are we on the same kind of idea, the same numbers for the POET systems? I know we just were provided drinking water because our numbers were higher than should be allowed. So I just wanted to see if there's two different sections because of the way that we're not quite on Eagle Drive, or if the numbers are like the new POET system is being installed, and I know like the regulations kind of changed. Is that going to affect us? Are we going to be retested again to see if the POET system might be an option, or?
So the reason why some of the residents get notices from Weston and Sampson, particularly the 4 town-owned POET, the 4 POETs that are dual POETs for 1,4-dioxane and PFAS. We do the notices on that, but there was we work very closely with Woodard and Curran.
Okay.
So we have all the same information,
Okay.
all the same data. We share the information. We're sharing literally daily. We have contact with Safewell and the contractors, and we're sharing daily and talking about the data daily or weekly to make decisions relative to POET systems. So we're all working very closely together. It's a really good arrangement, and everything's been going well. So they happen to have the communication piece with you on the seasonal sampling, because you don't have a POET system right now.
No, no.
Yeah, so you're still gonna get seasonal sampling it's probably gonna be an abbreviated schedule, but you're still gonna have some sampling done.
Okay.
And they will communicate with you on the results. That's the current agreement, is they will present to you particular, the results on the residential sampling.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I could also, just so you know, we had indicated that the town and Gentex were responsible parties.
Okay.
Our LSP is Sean, theirs is Woodard and Curran.
Okay.
So we are working hand in glove. They're the same thing, we're dealing with DEP.
That was
Yeah.
pretty much my question, why there was two separate
Yeah,
companies
and
kind
that's
of
it.
handling it.
Gentex
Okay.
is them, and Sean is us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very welcome. Any other questions? You can go second, the person straight back. Name and address for everyone, please.
Dave Durgan, 68 Eagle Drive. You guys said that.
David, could you take your hat off, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You guys say Gentex is a second party involved in this whole thing? Are they here tonight? Anyone from Gentex? Did you guys invite Gentex? Did anyone invite Gentex? Good. So the reason why I ask is you guys keep saying that that this bill is split up between you guys and Gentex. Gentex is paying half, you're paying half. What exactly is the rate that Gentex is paying compared to what you guys are paying, or what we are paying as a town?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
We're splitting the bill, correct?
That's right.
Is it
So
50/50?
50/50 is the rate.
Okay, because I have an email here that says that Gentex is paid for 8 of our POET systems and the town's only paid for 5. That doesn't sound like 50/50.
Well,
Stop. They're also paying for all the radon systems, and Mr. Ruda mentioned that that was an added cost for the town. And if Gentex is picking up that cost, that's not an added cost for the town.
If you were asking if Gentex is paying more than the town, the answer is no. There are a number of other sampling and other tasks that were performed by the town prior to Gentex being involved in this. And we took into account that. We did an accounting, and we figured out, because Gentex isn't a responsible party for the 1,4-dioxane, we were able to figure out how to divide those up. And certainly Gentex and the town have worked cooperatively on this, and both parties are happy with the sharing that they have. And if it's, I believe that it's supposed to be exactly 50/50, but we might be $1 or $2 off on one side or the other.
And for these POET systems, when somebody tests at 20 parts per trillion, you're supposed to automatically get a POET system?
Yes.
So we had people that tested in July and October of 2022. They didn't get their POET system until March of 2023. What took so long?
So that, we had discussions after those initial detections in 2022 with the DEP, and they indicated that we could do averaging. We could get a couple more samples and do some averaging. That was the information that we had from the DEP, and then
Who specifically?
I'd have to check my records. And
'Cause I seem to remember an email from Kevin Douse sent to you saying that you cannot do that.
yes,
And that
that's
once
exactly it. So then Kevin Douse
it's
actually,
the opposite of it then.
right. So Kevin Douse wasn't involved back in 2022. He became involved in January or somewhere around the turn of the year. And he reviewed the file and said, no, we're not gonna, we don't want you to do the averaging, so we are going to have you put these POETs in. And he gave us till March to do that.
Okay. And moving forward, say this, you guys taking the street from the Shenakis over here, and that ends up in court, are you guys going to be providing poet systems during those years that we don't know what's going to happen?
So I'm happy to answer that one. So just so you know, we're not taking the street. What the town is proposing to do is take an easement, a utility easement. There's probably one already under there. And if you take it under Chapter 79, the way this would work is that the town would take the property, they would they would vote on an order of taking, and they would record it with the Registry of Deeds, and the town would own that easement. And if there's a challenge to any pro tanto, then the challenge works its way through court, but it does not stop the public works project, and the taking moves forward. The town owns the easement in the property, so it wouldn't slow the project down.
And before you guys put in this water line, are you going to do a survey to figure out how many people actually want this down water?
I don't know that there'll be a quote-unquote survey. We're doing this because the DEP is requiring us, or they're not requiring us. Hold on.
Abate.
They're requiring us to do a POET system. However, they have indicated to us that the best way around to get rid of this is through a public water supply, supplying water down there. So that's the route that the town is thinking about taking. In the long run, it will be significantly cheaper because you're looking at a large upfront cost to install a water line, but you're also looking at $425,000 a year to continue the maintenance and sampling. And we don't know if that plume, if you will, of PFAS is going to go into additional houses. And we're guesstimating we're going to have an additional 25. In 5 years, we could have 45 or 55, and then you're seeing that number go up and up and up. So we have not, as far as I know, we have not surveyed anybody down there, but this is the way that the best and quickest way out of this.
Sean Healy, what's the total number of houses that you guys have, or that are in this whole entire bubble stretch, everything?
I've counted today 59 houses were sampled.
59 total? And out of those 59, 15 of them have already been abated or corrected, whatever? What happens to those people that have their system? Do they have to tie into water? Obviously, nobody has to, but will you guys be maintaining the filters after the water system goes through? The ones that we've already put the POET systems in?
Sure, that's a good question, and it's a legitimate question, and it's one that we have at least preliminarily reached out to DEP on, and at some point, the town's obligation to provide the residents with clean drinking water is likely going to end once we put a water line down there, and we will put in laterals as well to the street. And at that point, if the residents decline and no longer wish to take advantage of that, I don't believe that the town is going to have a responsibility to continue that maintenance and testing of that property.
So what happens with the POET systems? You just leave it in there? Leave it in their basement? And
I don't know. I'll defer to the expert.
We haven't had that discussion internally, so I mean.
These are purchased units, or are these leased units?
Purchased.
So they're free to the owner, whatever. You keep saying that oh yeah, Mr. Ruda, you said that that Gentex has vernal pools on their property that were testing with PFAS. Mr. Ruda, you over there? It's at the Maytown meeting.
Yes.
They have vernal pools on their property, and they're testing for PFAS, and they're tested positive for PFAS?
Well, there was groundwater testing that happened, that's why.
Groundwater, vernal pools?
PIRA.
Right. All right. And you didn't invite any of those guys here?
Yes, we did.
We did.
But they didn't, they decided not to show up?
You'd have to ask them.
Could have to ask them.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's, yeah, I think that's it. That's all I got for you guys.
Mr. Chair, before somebody comes up, can I just follow up to a question the gentleman asked?
Sure, go ahead. You can come up and stand
So,
when he's...
if I heard the question correctly, he was asking about currently installed POA systems.
Mm-hmm.
And we, as a town or an engineer, we can't mandate someone to tie in once the line goes in. So my question after listening to the gentleman was, if the POET system, will the POET system remain in the house? And that person can assume ownership, for the want of a better word, they can continue, I'm not sure how these work, I defer to Sean, is it just replace cartridge filters, or would they be able to?
Yes, if you do monitoring on a regular basis.
They would have to, the town would, once the line goes in where.
Yeah, whoever assumes responsibility,
Okay.
you know, so that has to be worked out, I guess.
All right, so.
In the future, that would have to be worked out, who is gonna be, assume responsibility. I haven't been part of any internal discussions relative to that. But there is a monitoring process, for a midpoint and then an effluent sample. Between the two carbon sample, canisters, there's a midpoint sample. And when we detect, a concentration in the midpoint, then you have to change out the carbon. On the so you change the tanks.
Right.
So on the PFAS only systems, it's typically, we estimate it's about once a year. Yeah. So there is some monitoring and maintenance
Okay.
costs, yes.
So if they currently have a POET, they don't want to tie in, the ownership of the POET becomes the owner, basically ownership of the property.
Yeah, I mean, that's a discussion that we would also have to have that discussion with DEP.
Okay.
To understand how they consider the regulations in that particular instance.
All right, I'm just trying to figure that out when he brought that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Your name, address, please?
Joe Coggins, 45 Fairview Ave, Dudley. My question, I got just a couple of questions. I think you may have touched on it, Mr. Chairman. You said that the maintenance, God forbid if there's like a water main break or something, the water department will be covering that and won't be on the neighbors. Because it's my reason for the question is because it's a private road on Fairview Ave. Like, we wouldn't be held accountable for like if there's the cost of a water main break on a private way.
I'm happy to take that one. What we would do is we would take an easement down your road. And I don't know what the policy, I suspect the water department here, if they have a break in one of your public ways, they fix it. It would be very similar to that. We're gonna have the right to put our water line down your road, so if it breaks the main, then they would come in and they would fix it.
Right, just, okay. And my other question, if they're gonna be stubbing it out, and I believe our well is under the limits right now, but I guess the limits have changed in the last couple of days. But if not, they're gonna stub it out. My other question, how much is the tie-in fee for that?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think you'd have to ask water.
Okay, does anybody know what?
Wait, we're not...
And a new amount came in, but like I said, that has to be all arranged and worked out with the state on it.
Can't hear you, George. Could you come up if you don't mind? Or
Scott.
Scott?
I don't know the exact numbers. We've got them down in the office, but it's a few $1,000s, for $4,000 or $5,000 total cost to connect. If it's not, if somebody were to come in tomorrow and ask to connect, it would cost them I believe it's around $4,000 or $5,000.
So to the chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Is that a footage calculation? If somebody's close,
No.
it's like basically a set charge?
Tapping the main, and then, of course, I don't know how far the lateral will go up the lawn, if they'll just stub it to the curb stop and end there. Of course, putting from the curb stop in is private property, so that would be, a contractor would do that. In the original, I would assume in the first project, in the main project, those will be put in for anybody who wants them. If they deny it, don't want it, that's fine, but years down the road, if they want it, they'll have to pay for it.
Okay.
It's the same as having a betterment for sewer. You have a couple of years to tie in. You have a couple of years to tie in.
I just wanted to know.
Thank you, Scott. I have a question off of yours, maybe Mr. Blake, you can answer. Would the residents have any cost, the residents on Eagle Drive, would they have any cost to hook into this water line? Or is this all covered, so to speak?
Well, I think that we had discussed bringing the water right to the foundation.
To the foundation, so
I
that,
believe that's what the discussion was. Now, we'll have to obviously talk with the water department because we're not the keepers of the water. I don't know about a connection fee.
Mr. Chairman, the main run of the project brings a water main and it brings a lateral with a curb stop, okay?
could you, I hate to ask you to go up to the microphone, but we need we need like a, yeah.
Okay, all right, the main project right now is to bring a main water line into the area, okay, around the whole development. Each one would have a lateral with a curb stop, a shut off to the property line. At that point, decisions are made about tie-ins, if the person wants it or not. A contractor would then be coming into each house. We wouldn't be doing the work at the house, that's private there. They'd bring the water line into the foundation and then they'd destroy the well, okay, so they can't use the well anymore. All right, that's the standard practice. How the state mandates things and does things, that's up to them as far as priorities go. If it has to be done, it's up to the customer or whatever. That's not the water department's purview. We just responsible for making sure that the main work is done correctly to the property line, to the curb stop, and everything is set properly in the road. That's our job.
Mr. Chairman.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, my question was the tie-in fee.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're still trying to figure that out.
That they're not, the foundation part, I understand exactly what he's saying on that. I just wanted to know.
Okay.
My question was on the maintenance of, we had a water main break because it's a private way, but the attorney answered that it's gonna be an easement. So I'm all set. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
So, George, I had the opportunity to sit in that meeting we had a couple months ago. So you kind of touched on it real quick. I think people have to understand what's important to what you said. The well will be caved in, for the want of a better term, so someone can't tie into water and use their well for like irrigation purposes, because that would defeat the purpose. If you have a garden, for example, you want outdoor water off your well, if you tie in, your well will be no more. Correct, Sean?
That also prevents any backflow of well water into our system.
Right, back into your
through
system.
the town fixtures.
Yes,
Not up to the resident in there.
Okay. Yeah, I remember we talked about it on that Zoom call that time. Thank you.
Great. Hi, name and address, please?
Hi, good evening. Ela Hanatsky, 37 Eagle Drive. I think there's been a lot of talk about this being a private road, which is true. It's been maintained by the Hanatskys since its inception. I'm wondering, if you go and you rip up the entire road, even if you are granted an easement, that's all well and good. It's a private road. We've all seen what happened to Warsaw Ave. It's a mess. So I'm curious how that's going to work when you go in and you put in a water line across the entire subdivision, and it basically ruins the existing road.
So what our obligation would be is it, like in all of these, is we would repair the road to the same condition, at least the same condition it was prior to going in.
Okay, with just compensation to the actual owners of the development, I'm assuming.
And I guess I'm trying to
If you
understand.
go underneath the takings, are you using eminent domain to take over
Yeah,
this property?
If we use
Right.
eminent domain, just so that you know, and maybe this is a good, if you don't mind, Mr.
No,
Chair,
go
maybe
right
this
ahead.
is
That was made, too overly.
Maybe this
clear.
is a good time for me to just kind of give you an overview. If you use eminent domain, what we typically
Right.
do, if you look at the warrant article, it says by gift, purchase, or eminent domain.
Right.
What we would typically do is we would go to all the residents along the road and say, hey, look, because I'd have to do some little bit more research, but I do believe the road is, if it's a typical subdivision road, the residents own to the center line of the road. So each resident has a share in the road.
No, not on Eagle Drive.
Eagle Drive's owned by one person?
Yep, owned by one person.
Okay, all right, so what we would do then is we would assess how much the
Right.
value of an easement is down that road, and we would issue what is known as a pro tanto, fair market, what we would consider the fair market value of an easement down the road. And at that point, we would then, once we get the authorization from town meeting, we would go to, the Board of Selectmen would do what is known as an order of taking.
Right.
They would take it, and at that point, we would then move forward with the water line. We would do the construction, obviously, during the construction, there'll be flaggers and whatnot, and we would restore it to the best of to the best that we can, to at least as good a condition as it was before.
And where in the process, because I've heard that this has been ongoing, a discussion for the past year, but we've been relatively uninformed about it.
Where are we in the process?
Right, so when is that going to move ahead?
We're going to town meeting, because in order to acquire an
Right.
interest in land, we have to get the authority from town meeting. We're going to town meeting in May and asking for the authority to purchase or take, for a gift purchase or take by eminent domain the easement. So at this point, this is in its infancy.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyone? Yes, right here. Name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Judy Heiss from 19 Circle Drive. We live on Circle Drive, which is a private road, which is off of Fairview Avenue. We have not been able to become a public road due to a trespassing issue that goes back to 1996. We have been found with the PFAS in our water well. And my question is if you do put a water line down Fairview Ave, will people on Circle Drive, being a private road, be allowed to have a water line brought up onto Circle Drive?
George.
I'll stay down. Yeah, I made recommendations to both my board and to the town that if you're going to go ahead and put a main line into Fairview Ave, we should also put it up in that area where she's talking about, Paula Lane, Circle Drive, due to the fact that if it ends up migrating to that area, which is very likely, the job will already be done at the main cost for the main project, instead of doubling or tripling it, going in and doing a separate operation in there. So.
Thank you. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And the reason I ask it is because we're on bottled water now, and a few of our neighbors are. So, I mean, it's only been like 6 months. But if it increases, you know, what are we going to do if we're not allowed to get in on that public water line?
Understood.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sullivan.
Judy brought up a good point. I know this was discussed in the past, George. There's town water at the corner of Circle and Fairview now, right? So.
Main ends at the hydrant just by Circle Drive right there.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, so if you can't answer it, don't answer it. Would the main come all the way down, going by Nacoggins residence, which is below Eagle Drive, on the way back towards Paula Lane? Or would
The main would actually go up Circle, come
back
around
out?
the loop, and then back down Paula to make a nice loop in, so that this water turnover continuously around there.
Right, so the separate main would be up the other end?
Yes.
Because you got the river there too, you'd have to worry about crossing that river too, right? If you came all the way through.
Yep.
So it'd be separate, like she'd tie into that, we'll
Yeah.
call it Lower Fairview. Used to be Fairview Ave Extension.
To come around in her development or whatever they do, and then it would come back down.
Okay, so it's two separate, but same project, two
Same-
separate
same
components.
project.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Tom Trinaki, 70 Eagle Drive. You guys say you're gonna run water up to our foundations. Are you guys gonna hire a plumber to hook it up to our inside? Or are we gonna get stuck with that cost?
So the internal discussion right now with the Water and Sewer Commissioners is to get to a point where there's no cost whatsoever incurred to tie right in for the residents.
All right, but I still have an option to put a filtration system in my house, and you guys are gonna monitor it, you said, for the rest of my life, every year?
No, I don't believe that was, if we bring the water line to you and offer to hook it up for you, I don't believe that the DEP is then going to require us to continue to provide the POET system. We have to give you clean water one way or another.
Yeah, I understand that.
So if you choose not to take the water, then you're likely going to have to maintain that system on your own.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone? No?
No, DEP is going to require us to do.
Hello, name and address, please.
Hi, guys. Long time I didn't see you. Yeah, I know. Did you guys stop the dump? It stopped.
Stop the what?
Tapped. He's supposed to put barrier, plastic barrier, make sure the water is not going from the dam to the wetland.
From
It's
what I
stopped,
from
it's
what-
finished,
From what I understand, that was capped in late 80s, early 90s?
capped, whatever you use. I don't think so you guys did.
I was in high school or college in the late
When I was,
80s, early
yeah,
90s.
I did that project and it was designed with sewage, with water line, and you guys just shut me down completely.
Yeah, you say
Make
you
sure-
guys. I was in high
Oh,
school or college.
there's small Greg. I don't know what you guys gonna do, you know. I was ready to look at water is, I don't know, is filtrated. It's so bad. I go to my jacuzzi, it looks like in chlorine there. You telling me it's good drug? I cannot drink it. I have to go to my son's house for water. This means you don't promise it's good water. I don't know what's going on. It's funny story. I planted some tree next to my driveway for last couple of years. I used town water. All of them died. That means you're talking good water.
What's your question that we can?
My question is big question. What you guys are going to do? You have to put new line. It's a lot of wires there. It's a lot of problems there. Why you stop me then 3 years ago with moratorium and that kind of business?
Again, 30 years ago.
Yeah, you stopped me. I was ready to put the water. And now you guys crying like wolf. Oh, we have to put it. Good luck. What gonna happen on another dam site you open on Oxford Avenue? What you gonna do there? You open.
Where?
You bring all dirt from Boston, from casino stuff. Thousands of trucks. What you gonna tap that? You gonna check too? About Oxford Avenue. Oxford Avenue. I am talking Oxford. Across cemetery. That side. It's gonna be same thing. You destroying Dudley. You guys doing nothing. I'm telling you. I don't know what people pissed off. They pissed off on me, but why are you blaming Gentex? That area was polluted before Gentex even started their business there. I tried buy that land on the side. And Kulesa told me, look, don't buy it because it's so highly polluted. That's when you know 30 years ago about it.
Sir,
Hold on.
Sir,
No, go ahead.
the town isn't blaming Gentex.
Yes, you do.
The Department of Environmental Protection is blaming Gentex. They found them a responsible party. The town has no authority to do that.
No.
Okay.
When Gentex bought that land was polluted already. It was already polluted. And now you're blaming Gentex.
But one thing you're missing here, that landfill was capped in the late 80s or 90s.
I'm going to find out about it. I'm going to find out about it.
Please let me finish.
Okay.
Please let me finish. That landfill was capped in the late 80s or 90s. Wasn't monitored. It started to get monitored when we were going to put the solar piece on. So if you want to point fingers about it not being done right, go out in that hall and find who was sitting in these seats back in the late 80s or 90s. Like I said, all of us were either in high school or college.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not blaming you guys. I'm blaming the people before
so
you.
You've got to blame the people from the 70s, 80s,
Yes,
60s.
yes, I
How
do.
far back did it go?
They're still alive.
But you know what went in that dump back then?
I know.
But,
That
well,
was-
I shouldn't say it that way. The regulations were different then.
Yeah, because I don't know. What I know, you're blaming poor Gentex. I know they didn't do anything wrong.
Okay.
And now you're lowering the standards on testing because you want to shut down all wells in America, for
The
example.
Department of Environmental Protection is lowering.
Yeah,
the
this is
standards.
the green monster, what I call them. Yeah, green monster.
And we had this meeting because there was a request to talk about this. So we're here. We've got the experts. We're trying to get you clean water. We're trying to get you clean water.
Clean. I gonna drill in my house well, if you'll allow it. I don't need your water. That's what I gonna do.
I don't know what the process is yet. This is new for everybody.
And,
so we'll see what that
you got
does.
a big problem because I know you cannot rip off my road without compensation at least.
I don't know how that works. That's.
I know lawyers gonna work on that, but meantime I'm sorry for those people here. Because some area in America they have to destroy all houses. That means watch out. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions that we can answer? Yes. Thank you for taking the hat off. Appreciate it.
Where's this money coming from? Is it taxpayer money? Are the taxpayers going to be involved? Or Mr. Ruda said there was going to be a grant. Do we have this grant secured?
Working on the grant, I believe. Doing our best to get the grant.
You have no
We don't want
idea of how you're
anyone's
going to pay for
taxes
this
to go
yet
up.
at all?
I'm sorry?
This hasn't been discussed on how you're going to be paying for this?
Mr. Ruda, do you want to add anything?
We need to move forward now and not wait until we've identified a source of funding, because there's a lot of things that have to take place first. But we're working every day to get grant funding. There are no interest loans, there are loans forgiveness, and we're trying to find the best deal for town. as
You
it
have no
stands
source
right
of
now.
funding right now.
What was that?
You have no source of funding, sir?
We're not.
At the moment, right now. this very
At the moment, right now, we
We're
don't.
not under construction either.
Sean, could you bring up that picture of all the affected houses? Because this guy brings up a good point about you guys blaming Gentex. You guys keep saying, the last meeting you were saying that the water's flowing.
We're not, DEP is blaming
Excuse,
Gentex.
okay, well, there's another question. The DEP told me that they do not determine who's at fault. That is up to Gentex and the town to determine who's at fault. So where are you getting this information from the DEP? Because I got this from Mary Jude Pigsley.
The town does not determine who is at fault. If that were the case, the town would be out of this because we would
They'd be
determine we're
saying
not at
Gentex.
fault. It's DEP that issues these, finds the responsible parties. And perhaps you got that from Mary Jude, or perhaps you misunderstood. But the town is not the one that, who determines a responsible party.
I'm not saying the town is.
DEP does.
The DEP, well, I'm
And
saying Mary Jude
and
says that she
we were
doesn't.
required to enter into a cost-sharing agreement with them. And we negotiated, and we came up with a cost-sharing agreement for 50/50. That, we did not force them into anything. This is a mutual agreement, and we've worked well with Gentex.
Yeah.
Do you think that agreement's not fair? The town should pay more?
Oh, I think Gentex is just as guilty as the people on Eagle Drive. I think that the landfill clearly polluted Gentex's land too. Before Gentex had an RTN, they had to answer interrogatories from the DEP because of the water, because of the public water. They had a set of interrogatories, and number 4, they answered that they did not have any PFAS-6 chemicals. They never used any PFAS-6 chemicals. So now for them for you guys to be saying that they're the guilty ones, I know you're not saying it, but you're definitely pointing fingers at it. This has been in the paper twice, and both times you guys have been pointing the fingers at Gentex. This is a landfill problem. Would you guys agree that the landfill, Mr. Sullivan, go ahead.
Well, you're not in charge, he is, so we can continue. I just waited my turn.
No, I'm letting
No, I
him.
went like this, he told me to go ahead. I said, he's not in charge. I'm just
No,
waiting my turn.
I want him, and complete idea, not pieces.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Sullivan, go ahead.
No, I asked you to finish.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm gonna go back to the experts, because I know I haven't, and I don't think anybody on this board has directly pointed fingers at Gentex saying they are responsible. Council made it clear that the DEP is the one who mandated both entities go into the cost-sharing agreement. And Sean probably has the information better than I do. Gentex had probably gonna use the wrong terms, please don't quote me to air quotes, some kind of release on their property back in it was in the 90s, I think, right, or late 80s? So they did have a documented release. There was my word, spill. And I understand, I thought we could tell by sampling what was which, but I'm not an engineer. I'm not an LSP. So to sit there and say, you guys or us or you blame Gentex, I don't think anybody on this board, I don't think Mr. Ruder, I don't think Sean, I don't think council has blamed Gentex. DEP has mandated the cost sharing, and again, Sean, they did have a release up there that was documented and recorded, which I'm gonna assume, based on the information you've been providing us, DEP is made the connection that that release makes them somehow liable for a portion of this.
So the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection did issue a notice of responsibility to Gentex for the PFAS impacts in the neighborhood.
Right.
So they have identified them as a responsible party.
Right, and you guys would have identified them as responsible
We
testing.
We haven't
They were-
haven't pointed the finger to Gentex at all, at any time.
You guys sent Gentex a letter to
Yeah.
test their water on the second round of testing because this wasn't in effect yet. You understand? Like, you were going to test Gentex's water.
No.
Yes, I know Gentex is on town water. Scott, thank you. That's why they never did test Gentex's water. But you sent the letter out to test Gentex's water along with the second round of testing. Would have been March 2022.
Yes, that was a requirement by the DEP that we do that.
Right, okay. And they've tested at the highest point 40 parts per trillion. We have houses that are tested at 60 parts, and one house was at 95 parts per trillion.
I have to ask a question. Where are you going with this, with as far as the town or Gentex? I don't.
I'm saying, like, what happens when Gentex, it's determined that Gentex isn't a guilty party? Because they're doing all the testing. They're testing dirt. Have you guys tested dirt, Sean?
We have not, we have not tested dirt, no.
They put in four wells, and they put in a few additional wells, and they're testing every part of that Potash River that goes in, or Potash Brook. You guys are still on the same one surface water on the left side of it, or the west side of it, and that surface vernal pool on the south, which is tested at over 1,000 parts per trillion, correct?
I'd have to check the data. I don't think that we've gone over 1,000 parts per trillion.
100% over 1,000 parts per trillion, surface number 2. What about the highest well? What's your highest well?
At the landfill?
Yes.
It's much higher than it is in the neighborhood.
How much higher?
I'd have to check the data.
600 parts per trillion? 300 parts per trillion?
I'd have to check. I mean, I have the tables here if you'd like to look at the
No, I have the
tables
tables
after
too.
the meeting. We could take a look at them together.
I mean, anyone can look at the tables, it's online. I just want to understand, like, what happens if Gentex finally gets cleared and the town's on the hook for this?
You just answered your own question.
But the town's on the hook for this?
That's right.
All right.
And the flip side, what if the town is found not liable and it's Gentex?
It could happen the other way as well.
So then we'd be off the hook.
Or we put in a water line, and both parties were able to do their cost sharing, and the issue would likely go away.
Okay.
Well, can you claim this on town insurance and Gentex insurance, and then keep the taxpayers out of it? Town must have insurance to cover something like this. I'm sure Gentex does.
I don't think the town insurance, I don't think the municipalities are insured for this.
Are you sure?
Yeah, there are, excuse me, there are a number of lawsuits out there that are currently filtering through, and we're monitoring those as well. Class action suits to try to get some of the bigger companies that are responsible and manufactured these type of chemicals. But there is no insurance. It's at least in the I've represented a fair amount of communities in there, and we don't see any.
I see Gentex just filing this on their insurance, so I don't know why a town would do that.
Perhaps they have a different type of coverage.
You know what I mean?
I don't know that
Instead of dumping it all on taxpayers. Good idea, huh? Right?
Yeah, because it's our fault. Mr. Carmignani, could I ask you, you're the insurance administrator. I know, I don't mean to bring you into this, but
So the question is, at some point in the late 80s, mid 90s, the property and casualty company for the town would have insured what was going into the landfill as far as being able to cover what is now leaching out. I don't believe there's any policy that could have been enacted. I don't have the information right now, but I think I would defer to town council, where Dudley probably would have been 100th in line to make the claim on whomever. And then we'd need to go back to some causality. At one point, the town would have been able to demonstrate sort of a loss. If your roof leaks, but you've denied the insurance company a home inspection to make sure that your roof was good, likely they're not going to cover it. Same reason we've put our water plant online, and there's been a representative 3 or 4 times there to make sure that what Maya, our property and casualty company, or Cabot Risk Strategies, which is that subgroup, the agent is out there, or an inspector for that company, to make sure that, yes, technically this is what is supposed to be there. We're not going to rubber stamp coverage for $1 million. We want to make sure that there's an accurate replacement cost. And I mean, that's the best analogy I can come up with. Other than the original discussion that there was hope that there had been coverage at one time. I'm guessing there's an exclusion for it currently in our system. So I don't know. I'm happy to follow up again, but back to town council. If PFAS is everywhere in the nation, we likely wouldn't be the first people to go through and do it. That's not part of our book of business. We insure a police cruiser because at one point there might be a chase, workers' comp, so on and so forth. I don't know exactly what the coverage would have been, but we can look into it. Nothing has pointed to me to say that there's going to be a relief. So,
thank you.
I'm sorry not to have an answer. I haven't been part of this discussion, but I'm happy to lend some research and get a definitive answer. And I don't know as if there's a statute of limitations or anything that would go with it. And again, it's at a indeterminate time where something happened. It wasn't somebody buried a piece of nuclear waste in 1991 to be able to trace that back. It's an accumulation of time with those chemicals, presumably, correct? Okay.
Thank you. Didn't expect you to have a,
Thanks, Rich.
but have to ask. Mr. Zakowski?
There's hundreds of PFAS chemicals. At this point, I don't think that's in litigation to determine who's at fault. Right now, all that's being determined is responsibility. We've got it in our water. Who's responsible for treating it? And that's not listing fault. That's not listing anything. That's listing responsibility for treating it. So right now with the landfill in that area, it's between the town of Dudley and Gentex are responsible for treating it. That's not speaking to anybody being at fault. We just spent, we're up in the vicinity of $13 million now treating in the main water system down on Schofield Ave. We're not at fault, we're responsible. There's a difference. Right, at some point, sometime down the road, we may be able to find who's at fault, and we'll get some money from it, maybe. More likely than not, we're just going to be responsible for cleaning it up, for treating for it, and then moving forward. I think there's a difference between fault and responsibility, and I think we're getting stuck in the weeds, fighting over which is which.
Thank you, Mr.
I think that's
Is there anyone?
Well said, Scott.
Hold on one moment, sir. Is there anyone here who hasn't been heard from this evening that would like to come up and be heard? Yes. Name and address, please.
Scott Forrester, 50 Eagle Drive. First, I want to say thank you to the town for getting us clean water as an affected house. I appreciate that. My question is, if and when it's determined that we are going to hook up to the town, when's the soonest this project will take place, and what's the duration of the project going to be?
Do we have any?
I think we were targeting next fall, weren't we, Sean? They have the 25, fall of the 25? They have it, the project completed? I think that was in your PowerPoint.
Project, I
Have
think
the
he's
line
talking
put-
about the actual water line installation.
Well,
Yeah. So that,
within the next 12 months, we'll have the engineering scope and design completed. And we'll be in a position where we can apply for funding, hopefully a grant as opposed to a loan.
So a year or two before it starts, or?
Probably more than a year, hopefully less than 2.
And how long do you anticipate the project lasting once it starts, if it starts?
Construction, I think, would be a George question, but
It'd be about 6 to 8 months or so, give or take. Depends on the season, depends on all the factors.
6 to 8 months? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that is, of course, contingent upon it passing at town meeting.
Right.
Because if it doesn't pass at town meeting, then it's...
Right, so it's safe to assume Dudley's going to keep up the monitoring and everything of the POET systems and everything while we're waiting, and...
It would ultimately, as long as the DEP requires us to do it, we would have to do it.
Yeah, and my last question, we have a lot of hardware in our basement, and I think someone brought it up earlier, but if we do end up tying in, it would be a lot of money to remove all this stuff. Is that going to be taken care of by the town also? Yeah, because those carbon tanks, to dispose of one of those is like $1,000. It's a lot of money to dispose of one of those carbon tanks, I was told by Safewell. So, you know, I would want, if we do end up connecting, I would want my systems taken out, so I'm not responsible for that.
that's right, because they're all considered contaminated.
Right.
That's right. Yeah,
They're filters.
exactly.
Probably would take
Right.
them all.
Yeah, good point. Anyone else?
I just have one question, Greg.
One question, you got it.
Only one. Are you still planning to put that solar panel over the dump?
It's already there.
Oh, good luck. That's another big problem. So first, how you're going to hit those panels that are going to be polluted for half a mile. Good luck with this one. I wasn't sure you did already.
Yeah,
Why?
it's already up. Town meeting voted it.
No, that's a good luck. Then you're going to have pollution.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to close the public hearing at 8:03 PM. We don't need a vote on that, Mr. Ruda, do we? No. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Ruda.
Just a couple of quick items, Mr. Chairman. The first one is Memorial Day is coming up. Oh, wait a minute, while everybody clears out. Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, good, Mr. Ruda. Go ahead.
An announcement, Mr. Chairman, from the Dudley Women's Club, which impacts the town and the veterans and the, with Memorial Day holiday coming up. Each year, the Dudley Highway Department weeds and mulches the plant beds at the town's 11 Veterans Memorial Squares and monuments in preparation for Memorial Day. Dudley Women's Club volunteers then plant flowers purchased by the club and continue to weed and water the squares throughout the summer and close the season by cleaning out the beds in the fall. For many years, the Dudley Women's Club co-founder and perennial member, the late Nancy Rakovic, who, as the board recalls, passed away in 2022, steered this project. She gathered volunteers, shopped for the plants, and oversaw the perpetual care of the squares. In honor of her years of passion for and dedication to this project, the Dudley Women's Club has hired J. Menard's Landscaping out of Charlton to revitalize each memorial square. In this one-time project, Menard Landscaping has cleaned the stones and the bronze plaques, trimmed the shrubs, replaced the cement walkway at one square, expanded the flower beds where possible, edged the beds, and installed stone borders where needed. The Quinnebog Honor Roll Square on Route 131 is the subject of an Eagle Scout project. The Dudley Women's Club worked with the Scout leader to see how the club could contribute to, without interfering with, his project, and it was decided that the Dudley Women's Club, Menard Landscaping, would install a new cement sidewalk, a needed item that is beyond the Scout's skills. The Scout will finish refreshing the square later this summer. So we're certainly thanking the Dudley Women's Club. The Dudley Women's Club wants to thank the owners of Menard Landscaping, and I think this has been a great community project from a community-based organization that really honors the veterans, the 11 veteran squares that honor our veterans throughout town. So the town thanks them for that. And just a reminder, Mr. Chairman, now the House Ways and Means has published their budget that the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee will take another vote, hopefully on the Dudley and Charlton school assessment number that accurately reflects those adjustments made by the House Ways and Means. We anticipate it'll be a minor adjustment should they decide to vote, and that will likely not amount to much more than $89,000 reduction in the school committee's original request of $1.4 million in increase. But we will need to consider every penny. We appreciate their consideration. And the Board of Selectmen and FAA, as we mentioned earlier, will have a joint meeting on May 6th and have the opportunity to vote on the final budget, which hopefully will include that adjusted number. So that vote will take place by the school committee, hopefully on the 24th of this month, and we'll do a joint meeting on May 6th to consider the final budget before we have to close everything down and get it posted for our May 20th town meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ruda. Any questions, comments from the board?
Motion to accept?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, we have departmental communication. Lieutenant Anise, do you have anything? Thought you might.
Good afternoon. I'll just be quick. I only have two things. You're going to see an increase in patrols. Our Ticket or Click It started April 1st. It's going to continue through June. So you'll see an increase in police presence out there on the streets and car stops. We also have the drug take-back program this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we welcome the public to come in. We assist the DEA with this. We accept needles and any sort of prescription pills that anybody wants to get rid of. So it's fine to leave the labels on them. Everything gets dropped off at the DEA and they bring it right to the incinerator. So 10 to 2 on Saturday, the 27th. That's it.
Couple questions from the Lieutenant?
Yes.
Not question, more of a comment. LT. People on Schofield have reached out to some of us on the board, and they appreciate there's been like a greater visibility down there, so I think those folks very appreciative. I asked to pass it along. And do we have the year-round, used to be, I haven't looked at them all, used to be a green for pill drop-offs? We don't just do it the one day. It used to be almost like a green mailbox kind of
So
thing.
we do. We still have the permanent box in the
Yeah.
police lobby that's open 24/7 year-round to the residents of Dudley.
Okay, but then and we usually do pretty good on the day of the once-a-year ones. Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you. But
All right.
Thank you. Chief?
Thanks, Jim.
Mr. Gatsky, anything? All set? Good. George, do you have anything?
We're going to be continuing our hydrant flushing program. And I just want people to understand something. The department has gone through major changes in the last 4 years, actually 3 years. Disruption of service has been a common practice when you get construction, tanks being done, things like that. Water supply is limited. So our flushing abilities have been affected a lot. So when people come up and make comments about, well, the water's dirty, this and that, we flush twice a year, and that cleans out the lines for the best part of the system. But the problem has been right now that our flushing abilities have diminished a little bit because of our demand, our ability to hold water in the tanks while testing, while construction's going on. As you remember, we had about 50 main breaks in a 2-year period a couple of years back, so we're still recovering from all that type of thing. But as we're now getting everything wrapped up and working, I expect that the water quality is going to really start boosting up in some of these lines once we get to flushing them, especially in the low side of town. In this area down here and that, where we have to constantly monitor certain areas that are dead ends that need attention. So just keep that in the back of your minds. As people say, the water's a little dirty. We're getting there. We're going to get it cleaned up. But it's just the time and manpower to do it. And while we're still testing some things, it takes water to test. It just limits us a little bit. So, thank you.
Thank you. Rich, do you have anything?
Quickly, those pink bills have gone out for unpaid round number 1 motor vehicle excise. The next step is they go to the deputy collector, and pretty soon you won't be able to renew your registration. It doesn't cancel your license, it just prohibits you to your ability to transact business over at the registry. So anybody who owns a vehicle, if you put gas in something, you should have paid your excise on it, because the first and the second one had come out. Need to thank everybody in the office. Need to thank Jackie and Lori from the town clerk's office, because inevitably it's a phone tag. Also, Lisa and Kathy. There have been a few residents who needed a little bit of extra as far as assistance goes. Everybody also has been very good in the event your mail shows up in the wrong box, getting payments over to everybody. Taxes are due on May 1st. Remember, this is the final installment. Pink bills, the demands would be going out the second week in May. So if you didn't pay your first or your second or your third, it's all done. Also, this is the time we're going to go through and we start that tax taking process. Really, nobody wants to have the conversation about equity theft. Best way is it's a low tax rate. Some days it's sore that it's a low tax rate. If you get everything paid on time, it's not too bad. It's when things start to become a lien on the property as well. Expect another water sewer bill coming out in the next week or so. You had one bill that was due the same time the excise were due. That was likely a read sometime in January to be sent out the first week in February, so don't think, well, I just paid a bill. It's the read date as opposed to the due date, because there is some time for processing it. Other than that, thank you. I appreciate that the Board of Selectmen worked their way through this public hearing. It was necessary. It's good that we had everybody here. I was also happy one or two of the residents raised their hand and looked at this as a positive thing. At the end of the day, I take it the town has some responsibilities, and putting its best foot forward for a solution, I think, is a good thing. It's going to cost some people, but look to the other side. You don't want to have a Flint, Michigan on your hands where there's undrinkable water that continues to be consumed. Dudley is a great place. We should not have a little X by our name if we're in that real estate search. Houses should be at a premium here, not don't buy over there. So I'm glad that you had it. Hopefully bigger and better things can go happen to it. And in the fall of '25, hopefully there's a period on this sentence. Happy to send out a few more water and sewer bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we might have to have a few more of those to drown out some of that misinformation happening from back of that room there. Next up, we have student representative. Next up, we have board members' comments. Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank Mr. Ruda, by extension you also, for having town council and the engineer for the PFAS issue. Despite what you just said it best, but despite what some people may think or say or post, this has been a pretty open process. I know Scott and George from Water brought this PFAS issue up years ago, to the point where we were one of the first towns to get into the, Mary Jude came that time. That was probably 2 years ago. So this is something we've been...
During COVID.
Yeah. This is something we've been working on diligently. And again, I want to emphasize, piggyback on council who left, no one on this board, no one in town government has 100% blamed Gentex for this. Council said it best. The DEP is the one that found both parties, and as Sean Healy said, it's a shared financial responsibility right now. And the resident who got up and said something to the effect, what are we gonna do when you guys, I think he kept saying, find out that Gentex isn't responsible? And I don't know if you heard the question I asked council, what happens if Gentex is deemed responsible? So we've been working with them, working well with them, and right now, it's just a process. We're in the process, and we're trying to work our way through it. But I appreciate the turnout tonight, because how many times have we had a public hearing on something and nobody shows up? So turnout is good, it's nothing to be afraid of, we didn't run from it, and people had a chance to have their questions, and I think you did a nice job, Mr. Chair, so thank you very much, and a nice job tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Landry.
Yes, I'll just say thank you to everybody involved. A lot of information got out there, especially with legal and the engineer and water department. I think a lot of slightly exaggerated statements were made very clear as to where we stand and what's going on and what's to be expected in the future. So thank you for being patient, everybody, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Mr. Marcy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, no, this was good. I'd like to see turnout on something like this. We have been working on this issue for a long time. COVID, as Mr. Zukowski just reminded us, it has been very open. I like the fact that the people can see that, we responsible. I want to call out what something that Scott said, responsible versus fault. We're still responsible, and those who sit up on this table have to take the responsibility to come up with a solution that works for the entire town. And there's some of the, themes being, talked about here tonight, wasn't against that, but I'm just going to say again, this is what we're being advised or told to do by DEP, and we have to comply. There's no going around that, and those limits are only going to get tighter as time goes on. And as Mr. Sullivan said, Dudley has been a leader on this. There's other towns that missed the boat on a lot of the early funding and cheaper ways of financing this. So we led on this issue. I know it can be frustrating for people who have that. I truly believe it. But we will all work together and figure out the best way forward for the town. And Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to recognize that today is a Passover. And I know there's a few people that would have liked to attend tonight, so I just wanted to recognize my Jewish holiday. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Marcy. Yeah, facts from what DEP said, council, engineer. I want to thank Mr. Ruda for having this public hearing, putting together some things along with it. Residents asked for it, gave it to them. There it is. There's the experts. You can ask them and get facts. Went off the rails a little bit there, and I let them speak. And if I let them speak too much in some of your opinions, I apologize. But I can't imagine having living there and having this. So kind of gave them a little extra grace, but. There were some opinions shared this evening, and I want to stress those were opinions. What the DEP says is a little bit more than an opinion, that's a fact. That's it, and thank everyone for having the patience through that. Next on the agenda, we have executive adjournment. Will someone bring us into executive session, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move to convene into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body as declared by the chair.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Mark Landry, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Carrie Sigenovich, aye.
Oh, not to adjourn an open session.
He said that.
Oh, he did?
Nope, go back. Will you please adjust your...
Not to reconvene an open session.
I'll second that.
Once again? Nope.
Mark Landry, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Carrie Sigenovich, aye. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.